Today on the Diz List, we count down our top 5 favorite rides at Magic Kingdom 2024 edition.
Welcome to the Diz List, the podcast that ranks everything in Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob, and welcome to episode 82, where we count down our top 5 favorite rides at the Magic Kingdom 2024 edition. What does that mean?
Well, we did this. Episode number 1 of the Diz List podcast was the top 5 rides of Magic Kingdom. What I will say is there are 2 reasons why I wanted to do this again.
Yeah. I'm curious what you're going to say, because I know. Go ahead.
One is things change a lot.
Yes.
And number 2 is probably the same thing you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sounded like we were talking in a tin can.
Yes.
It was like as if we had, I don't even know, like a megaphone, like those old school megaphones, and that's what you're listening to.
Welcome to the Diz List. Please stand clear of the doors.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I just switched on that one.
Yeah.
My point was going to be, I just wanted to do this again. Like, this is my favorite place, my favorite thing, my favorite everything.
Things change.
Now, your number 1 is Epcot.
My number 1 park, yes.
My number 1 park is Magic Kingdom. So to me, this is my number 1 of number 1.
But here's the thing. My number 1 ride park is Magic Kingdom.
Oh, okay.
Not my number 1 ride ever, because that's,
I would say my number 1 walk-around park is Epcot. It's the most fun to just walk around.
Yes, I understand.
It's so open.
So for rides, Magic Kingdom is certainly my favorite park.
Yeah.
But I enjoy Epcot more, if that makes sense.
It does.
I just prefer the whole experience of Epcot more. So it is what it is. Hey, we got an email this week that I think we should talk about.
Sure.
Got an email from Pam, and Pam is a listener who, in quotations, said she's part of the senior set. So I'm going to take that to be that she's borderline senior, so she's like 35.
I was going to say 32.
Okay, probably. But she mentioned that,
Happy birthday.
Yeah, she mentioned that she thought a fun episode would be if we, talked about ways to slow things down, or top 5 things about, like, places to take a rest and whatnot.
Yep.
She had some really good points, and this is not something that just she has reached out. Our patron Sherry has also reached out before to us. The point that Pam made in her email was, even like my favorite place to hang out in Epcot, the UK Pavilion, really only has 2 benches in that whole area. So if it is happening to be crowded, you can't just sit down. Think about all the places where you have to sit like on a curb at Disney World.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
Hollywood
I'm
Studios
thinking
is
specifically
notoriously
about
bad.
like waiting for parades, because we like to watch the parade over in Frontierland by Pecos Bills. We usually watch, I guess it's the beginning of the parade over there.
Yeah.
There really isn't anywhere. I mean,
like, unless you're lucky enough to get the rocking chair.
yeah, I mean, there's no curb or anything there at all. I mean, it's,
There's
you
the
stand
little,
or...
I've sat on the little, there's like a retaining wall or something as you're coming out from underneath like the little tunnel. I don't want to call it a tunnel, but where the bathrooms are there. So you can sit down there.
Yeah.
But I think it's a point well made. And I thought, while we don't necessarily think we could do a full episode on that, because you've never really traveled too much with seniors, and I've been with my mom and my mother-in-law, but like it's not our life, right? So to me, I don't want to sit here and rank something and lie about it, right? Because we don't really know.
Yeah.
But we do have ideas and we do have some thoughts about it. So I think it's worthwhile for a show opening to discuss this stuff.
Yep.
And I didn't want, because she's not a patron, I didn't want to relegate it to a patron mini or something.
No, this is good stuff too. I don't have a ton of experience in this category. Number 1 is because we go hard. I mean, when we go to the parks, we move fast. We're all pretty much fast walkers. We want to get in as much as possible. So that's kind of the opposite here. But the first time that I went with my kids, which I've talked about before on the podcast, we went with my mother. So my parents, my mom and dad, went down to Orlando, and we stayed at Bonnet Creek. Are you familiar with Bonnet Creek?
Yeah.
So Bonnet Creek is a resort not owned by Disney but on Disney property, which is a great place, by the way. We rent they have timeshare rooms there, and we rented a timeshare from somebody else. And the reason I'm getting to this is, it has multiple bedrooms, and my parents had their own room, and we had our own room too. And my dad decided to stay back. So my dad, obviously, when we grew up, and well, maybe not obvious if this is your first time listening. I don't want to say obviously every time. So I grew up going to Disney because we have relatives in Orlando. So my dad has basically gone, I can't even tell you how many times, probably 12, 15 times. And my dad was like, I'm good. I'm going to stay back. And he's not old, but like doesn't want to stay, walk around on his feet, especially when he's done it over and over. But my mother went with us. So, and the kids were younger. So that was probably the time where we weren't sprinting from place to place. So that's really my experience with that. Now, you're probably the better one to answer this because you've gone twice with both your mother and your mother-in-law, correct?
Yeah.
So why don't you chat about it a little bit, because you have a little bit more experience in this category.
Yeah, my mother is certainly in a spot where and we brought her for her 60th birthday. She's an active 60-year-old. I mean, so it's not that the walking and moving nonstop is an issue. But what I'll say is this, that there are ways to make it so that it's more bearable. So for instance, we did, both with my mom and my mother-in-law, one of the things we did was we utilized the Touring Plans Lines app.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not affiliated with them at all. This is not like a sponsored thing, but
no, it's useful. I've used it too. You can set up what you want to do and then say, do you want to prioritize wait time? Do you want to prioritize walking? So to minimize walking, or, what is it you want to prioritize? And then it'll optimize which way you should go around the park. So for both my mother-in-law and my mother, we set it to prioritize the walking distance. And as a result, even though you maybe could have saved some time by leaving, let's say, Big Thunder Mountain, going over and doing Space Mountain, then going and doing Splash Mountain. I know that seems like a ridiculous thing. That's a ridiculous amount of walking.
Right. And so what they would do is say, you might wait longer right now by going from Big Thunder to Splash, but you're going to walk less. And so they would just kind of make sure that everything was maximizing your enjoyment by minimizing your walking. And you can do that. That's a free, I think the Lines app is free. There is a subscription fee for touring plans if you wanted to, and that thing's certainly worth the money in my opinion. But the idea of just making sure and planning your trip in such a way that you minimize walking. But Pam's point wasn't that she doesn't know what to do, like how to minimize walking. It's just that even when you do that, you're still walking about 8 miles a day. Where do you rest? And I got thinking, she's right. She said that, there's no benches. Well, she's not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, Hollywood Studios notoriously has if you go into Toy Story Land, find a place to sit. Find one.
I would say, now I'm trying to scroll through my head and think of what place has the most amount of seating and benches. And I'm going to go with World Showcase along the water's edge.
I mean, they do, yes. During a festival, good luck getting one.
Right.
And there's a reason the joke is that people eat on the garbage cans.
Yeah. Oh, I've done that.
Yeah, I have too. I mean, it's not a joke. It's real.
Yeah.
I also think that utilizing park transportation, what I mean by that is in-park transportation. So if you're at Epcot, taking the boat from one side of the lagoon to the other.
Thinking that too.
The other thing is of course now in Magic Kingdom, the train's back open. So that's a way.
So if you're way over by Thunder Mountain and the former Splash Mountain, current Tiana, or almost current Tiana's Bayou Adventure, you can jump on the train, and if you want to ride Space Mountain, that train is going to zip you right over to Space Mountain in no time. Yeah. And it's a great ride too.
Yeah, it's actually very relaxing. The other one is rides that let you get off your feet. You're right. There's not a lot of places to rest your feet, but Magic Kingdom's got a ton of these rides. You've got Carousel of Progress, you've got the People Mover, you've got all these rides or attractions, whether it be Tiki Room or even really Haunted Mansion and those rides where you're sitting down, and Haunted Mansion's gotten to be quite long now because
The
of
movie
all the stop
and the Hatbox Ghost is there, yeah.
Well, but the stop and go has gotten to be really bad. I've had a couple of people reach out and comment that. But yeah, picking your attractions properly is another part of it. But it makes me wonder if Disney hears those complaints or if they don't care.
Who knows?
I don't know if anybody's even saying anything, right? But how would it hurt Disney to put some benches down here and there on the edge of the walkways? I don't think it would.
No.
And maybe there's a reason they don't. But for me, I think that my number one tip is obviously the touring plans, like maximize your time in the parks by minimizing your walking. And then my number two tip is picking attractions that help to keep you off your feet. Those are just, and if you're not a thrill ride person, finding those rides is a little bit easier. If you really want to do thrill rides and you're only on the ride for 30 seconds and you're standing up the whole time in the queue. But
I have a question for you and two tips. My question for you is touring plans I've only ever done on the app. And I know in general that probably if you're listening to this, you're probably listening to it on a smartphone. But there's a lot of people, my parents are pretty good with technology, but I know there's a lot of people who are part of the, we'll say senior community. That's fair. I'm very close to the senior community too, who prefer using a computer as opposed to something smaller on a phone. So that's my question. When you get your touring plan subscription, can you click around? And because personally, I like having a bigger monitor too. I like being able to see it.
I'll be honest with you. I only use the Lines app, which is their app.
Okay.
I only use that in the parks. The rest of the time, I do everything on the computer on their website.
Well, there's the answer.
You go to like touringplans.com, and then what's nice is like, this is turning into an advertisement for them. That's fine by me. I don't care.
Well, we're not getting paid.
Yeah.
So,
but like you can do things like do a room request. You can attach, if you have a subscription, you attach your reservation, and they'll send your room request for you.
Yeah, they did that for me too. It was great. We got what we wanted.
You can basically put what attractions you want to do and say, optimize, or you say, nope, I want to do it myself, or you say, I plan on getting Genie Plus that day, and they'll tell you what to prioritize for Genie Plus.
Right, and this is just a plan. It's not. This app is not going to book all the rides for you.
No. And this isn't. I mean, there are apps, there are companies that do that. One's called Jungle Skipper, but like it's, I don't know how good those are. I can't speak from experience. I can definitely speak from experience on touring plans. But yeah, I actually like the experience on the website better than I do. And you can save your plans. You're like the way
I've done that too.
So you can go back and be like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it because it worked really well that day.
I had 3 different versions of plans for different parks depending on certain things.
Yeah, depending on when you go and whatnot. Yeah, that's one really good way to do it. So you said you had a couple tips too.
I did. One would be to do to plan on doing sit-down dining at least once, maybe all 3 meals during the day, because that's a big break and a big chance for you to get off your feet.
Yeah,
that can be expensive.
And cool off.
It can be expensive, but it's a really good way to just kind of take a break. The other one is try to choose rides, if possible, that have shorter lines. And if you're real picky about what you want to do and it has a longer wait, it is what it is. But if you can look and try to get on some of the rides that have shorter waits or buy Genie Plus so that they're shorter waits, again, you're going to be off your feet a little bit longer, a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the key is just modifying what you're planning on doing a little bit to maximize enjoyment.
Yes.
Because no ride is going to be worth you just being miserable in the park. But that's what can happen. I mean, I was lucky. When I went with my mom, she's super mobile, very active. There's no issues with mobility or anything like that. My mother-in-law, she's not. She's certainly active and is not somebody who can't walk. And she actually prepped for Disney by walking on a treadmill, so she got used to it. But sometimes there's people who doesn't matter how much prepping you do, you're getting to that age where it is. I mean, 8 miles is not something to sneeze at, and that's what Pam quoted that she walked about. And 8 miles, honestly, is a low day. I mean, when you're in those parks, I put on anywhere from 12 to 15 miles.
What are those things called? Rascals? The little I
Yeah.
know you're laughing, but
No,
is that what they're called?
No, the ECVs, the electric scooters.
Why am I
yeah.
thinking they're called Rascals?
'Cause
Is that
there's
a
a-
nickname for them?
well,
Was that a
there's-
brand?
Yeah, it's like little rascals and then the hover round. The
Okay.
hover round's the one where they go to the Grand Canyon and they
Okay.
yell out and it echoes. Yeah, that's
Now-
the commercial.
That's why I had. Okay, so I wasn't off base there.
Yeah.
Is that something that you can rent at Disney World?
Yeah, you can.
Now,
Yeah, sure.
Where do you know where they do that? I actually have no idea.
Oh, you
'cause
mean
it's
at
not-
the actual at Disney World?
Yeah.
No, I don't know about that, but
Or do you
they're
have to bring
definitely
your own?
there are companies.
Okay.
There are tons of companies that
Interesting.
rent them.
And
So-
then they would bring it to like your hotel or resort.
oh yeah, it's kind of yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the stroller rental places do the same thing.
Okay.
Now I don't know that that's what Pam was looking for, and
Oh, and I wasn't hinting at that either. That was just,
no, I know.
and that's not even seniors. That's if let's say somebody breaks their leg or
Oh, yeah.
they have some kind of
I've
condition
definitely
with their hip or knee or whatever.
Oh, I've definitely seen like teenagers with a cast on in Disney. I mean, imagine that, right? It's summertime. You're on summer vacation. You got a Disney vacation planned. The day before you're going to Disney, you're playing baseball. You slide into second base, break your ankle. What do you do? Like you're not canceling your Disney trip, and you're not going to crutch around all day. Could you imagine crutching around Disney World all day?
Jeez.
Especially like with like all the tripping hazards with the train tracks on the trolley tracks on Main Street.
That'd be so tough.
But yeah, I know this isn't exactly what Pam or even what Sherry wanted as far as like that discussion about senior stuff. But at the same time, we would be doing you a disservice if we tried to pretend we knew a lot about that. So we just want to be honest, but we do have some tips, and
Yep.
I think these tips that we talked about were valuable. So, speaking of Sherry, she's going to be our patron of the week. And we're going to head off to the halftime show, which is brought to you by Sherry and magicmerch.art. If you haven't checked out magicmerch.art, we have a storefront both on one is Printify and the other one we do have an Etsy storefront right now. Our products on Etsy right now until Valentine's Day are on sale. They're on, I think it's 15% off right now.
Nice.
But if you go and check us out, if you go to our Instagram, we have links there. You can also go to magicmerch77.etsy.com.
So they're just 50% off. Is there a code or
Not right now, not for that part. No.
Cool, great.
Yeah,
That's
so
easy then.
That's an easy one. They should be just marked. But we really appreciate all of your support, all of our patrons, and we also appreciate any support you could give. Magicmerch.art. Thank you.
See you after the break.
Welcome back. Today we're going to count down our top 5 favorite Magic Kingdom rides in 2024. We felt like we should do this because things change. Times change. Our kids change. We change. We did this as our episode number 1, and our mics have changed twice since then.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
That's true.
those are reasons to do it. And because Rob and I both love the parks,
Yeah.
and wanted to do a favorite ride thing and a
Yeah,
discussion. Our type. I listened back to that episode, and like our discussions have definitely changed and evolved. So I think this is a good choice to do this.
We did that episode before we went to Magic Kingdom together, I believe.
Yeah, we recorded it in June of 2022.
And then 2022 July is when we had
launched.
our
We
trip
launched.
together.
Yeah, and we launched our show the day before we left.
Right.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So this is if I were to do a list of my favorite parks, this is number 1 for me. I love it. And
Yeah, it's my number 2, but I told you off the mic that this is my number 1 for rides.
yeah.
Like, rides are great. Rides aren't everything to me. And so for me, this is my number 2 park. But yeah, I love this park. I mean, it's my number 1 ride park.
Yeah, it's literally my favorite place on earth.
My
favorite place.
I can't blame you.
Yeah.
I can't blame you.
And people would go, "What? It's it's not the Bills Stadium?" No, I've been there enough.
Yeah, it's cold there, and
I've been there enough.
yeah,
And it's fun. It's funny how often the Buffalo Bills come up in conversation.
Yeah.
Again, last week we were a little nervous. We were like, I don't know if by the time people listen to this, if the Buffalo Bills will come out with a win. So
yeah. We'll see.
So there's rumors that we're gonna have Taylor Swift. Well, say in town today. Is Taylor Swift going to be in town today?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
And if she is, good for her. Whatever.
My wife told me she has a friend who lives in Buffalo who knows a person who knows a person that said Taylor's crew rented out a restaurant.
Okay, maybe.
And I said, that's what I said. I go, maybe.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I know some people who said the opposite, but that's okay. Doesn't matter.
Well, we will find out today.
Yeah. What I will say is, I wish I was there eating today because they have some fun stuff. They have a karma quesadilla.
What? What is in that?
I don't know, but it's karma quesadilla, and they have a bad blood. They have bad blood something or other. They are naming their concessions after Taylor songs.
That is funny.
So yeah,
That is funny.
all right. I thought so too.
All right, now to my favorite. Well, yeah, my favorite thing.
Yeah, let's kick it off here with your number 5 Magic Kingdom top ride in
Now,
2024.
I must have this list somewhere, and I can go back and look at some point during the entire thing. But before we started, you said to me, you go, well, Space Mountain was definitely not on your list. Because I have to go back and look, because now my number 5 is Space Mountain.
Yeah, your number 5 was not that before.
And here's why it's changed. Disneyland has changed this. And I realize that the Disneyland one, and I say this on the podcast a lot, the Disneyland version of Space Mountain is leaps and bounds better. But what it's made me do is just love the ride and appreciate the ride more. And I realize it's herky jerky or more. That's not quite as smooth in Orlando. But after riding that in Disneyland, now I'm like, that ride rules. I don't know. Think of all the great rides in Magic Kingdom. That's my number 5 now. It's made my list.
Well,
and I can't think of what's dropped off now. I'm gonna have to go back and look and find it.
We can find out.
I'm gonna see if I can do this here.
Okay, I will tell you right now that I understand what you're saying, but I can't justify putting Space Mountain on the list. What?
I found my old list.
Yeah, it's not.
It was not hard to find here.
Yeah.
I just scrolled to the very bottom
Yeah.
of my list, and here it was. Here's why it's on the list now. Because Splash Mountain was on the list before.
Right, but Splash Mountain wasn't 5.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. Oh, you're saying
So everything is
it's gone
changed.
and it's condensed.
It's gone.
Gotcha.
So
I gotcha.
since that was on my original list,
did you have Space as an honorable mention the first time?
I don't know if we did honorable mentions.
No, we didn't.
There's nothing on there.
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many that are honorable mentions for me.
Yeah.
So my number 5 is Space Mountain, and I kind of told you why a little bit more. But I have a new appreciation for it and a new excitement for the ride since riding it in California.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I like Space Mountain. It is the first time that I really like rode a roller coaster where with my wife and my son where like I could tell that there was some fear going on because like you're riding that and it's dark and like it's scary and Cooper was 7 or 8 I can't remember, but he was young, and so being on that ride, and I can remember my wife clutching onto him. I heard last week the story that your son told. So he was talking about how your wife was in the middle and had one hand over her on your daughter and one hand
we have a photo of that somewhere.
And so like I understand that because I lived that with my wife and my son, and he is a very vocal roller coaster rider.
So he was laughing the whole time,
laughing and screaming, "I'm gonna die," and like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die!" And so my wife wasn't sure if he meant like I'm falling out. I mean, it's just all those things that go through your head as a parent, right? I mean, he was clearly big enough. They wouldn't let him on. Disney's really good about that. But
I think
so. I do get that Space is a look. I'm going to say you put it at 5 because you recognize the potential.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
I have not seen the potential. You've seen the potential.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it.
Was it the first ride that we went on together when we went to the parks? Because we arrived there and we had half a day at Magic Kingdom and we went over when it was raining.
No, I don't think so. I think we did. I don't remember what we did, but I think we only did it once because we did it at night when we were there for extended hours.
Yes.
That's the only time I remember going on it with you. But maybe. So that's your number 5. Yeah. My number 5 has also changed. My number 5 is one that I ranked higher before, but it has since moved, and I think it's because of just preferences and how my appreciation for some other stuff has changed slightly. But my number 5 is the People Mover.
Oh, okay.
So I really like the People Mover, and I mentioned it our first episode that I love that you can eat on the People Mover. Like you can take a snack on the People Mover. You got popcorn, you've got, Mickey bar. Heck, if you want to get a burger to go from Cosmic Rays and get up there, you could, or from the lunching pad, you could do that. I like the People Mover for people watching, and also I like the People Mover because I have seen Space Mountain with the lights on twice.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to see it twice.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's very rare, and having someone see that twice.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess the
On
difference is
back-to-back rides.
I guess the difference is if you're there frequently and you ride it on a regular basis, your chances increase.
Yeah.
But if you go once a year and you're only riding it a few times, your chances are very slim that you're going to see that.
I saw it on my last ride with you, and on my first ride this past summer. So back-to-back years on separate, like totally separate days, totally separate years, but on consecutive rides, I saw Space Mountain with the lights on.
Wild.
Yeah. I like it for so many reasons. Other than that, though, it's relaxing. We talked in the opening about getting off your feet. There's not a better way to get off. And it looks like you're going to be in line forever, and it just moves so quickly. And it very rarely has any real major issues. There are times I get it. There was a while where it was breaking down every day. It's not like that as much anymore. It will stop, but it's not down for the whole day. It's just not.
It's just such a cool and unique experience because what this ride does is it's basically like a tour of most of Tomorrowland. Not all, most, but you go through the inside of Space Mountain. You see the astronaut. You see, well, at least you can hear the track if you don't see it. You get to go into Buzz Lightyear. There's that whole section where you get to see like the scale models. And then there's just that beautiful view where you can see the castle and the rest of the park.
That view of the castle's phenomenal.
It's like a must picture every single time when we go by it.
Yeah, I just like the people. I love it. Everything about it is great except for the ride it sort of shares a queue with. Like if they could just do right with it.
Oh, yeah.
Astro Orbiter. Astro Orbiter will not be on either one of our lists.
No.
So that's my number 5. So do you have anything more about the People Mover, or you want to move on to your number 4?
No. People Mover is not on my list, so that's why I wanted to comment a little bit on yours.
Yeah, no problem.
If we share something, I probably won't share as much, and I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, go ahead.
My number 4, unfortunately, I did not get to ride last time. It was one of those things where the line is always insanely long. Like, it's unbelievable how long the line for this is, and I really like the ride. But what I have to do when I go to the parks, and I try to keep my family involved because I'm kind of the leader of where we go, but I always want everybody's input. So I say to them, do you want to wait in line for 70, 80, 90, 100, whatever minutes, or do you want to go do A, B, C, and D during this amount of time? Usually their choice is A, B, C, and D because they want to do more. They don't want to just stand in line. But my number 4 is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So I just kept putting it off because the line was so long. And then by the time we left, I know why. Because when we went together, we had the extended hours, and we were right in the front of the line, and we were excited. We were going to race right in and see it. It was like right after the fireworks, right?
Yep.
And they never reopened it. There was something was wrong with the ride, and I'm like, we'll get to go again. But you did, so that's good, and I'm happy.
I did
for
the next morning.
You went the next morning, but I forgot why we didn't.
You guys didn't go there because you didn't go to Magic Kingdom that day.
Because we went to Animal Kingdom that day. I think that's right. Love the ride. Okay, love it, and I appreciate it even more now that there is the Frozen ride. You said it the other day when you and I were having lunch.
Oh, Wandering Oaken's Sliding Sleighs.
Yes, and it came up in conversation of something that wasn't related to Disney at all. So, someone was talking about sliding sleighs.
No, they said Oaken.
Oh, they said Oaken, right?
Yeah.
I know, I remember. And then I think I have more of an appreciation for it being a longer ride because we saw what its counterpart is, or the remix.
I don't know if I'd call that a
overseas.
counterpart, but it looks similar.
We'll call it the remix.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess.
Indiana Jones is a remix of Dinosaur.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't complain. I would love to comment on this right now too because this is my number 4.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, my number 4 is also Seven Dwarves, and it was my number 2,
Mm-hmm.
and it's changed, and it's because the last 2 times I've went
Mm-hmm.
with you and then with my family last summer, it's not as reliable as it should be. It is down. It has a lot of downtime. I would love to say that the best way to ride this is to make sure you rope drop it, which it is the best way to make sure you ride it.
Yeah.
If it's open. If it's open at rope drop. And usually is, but there's times when it's not. And that makes life a little bit difficult. I'm going to tell you honestly, I think that it also, I don't know, I guess I've just kind of grown to like some of the other rides more. Like particularly when I get to my number 3, I've really grown to love that ride more. It's fun. My kids like it. They don't love it. A big part of why I ranked it so highly the last time was because my son and I went on it so many times the first time we went that it was like a nostalgia thing. It was something we did a ton of, and I certainly still love that ride and still think of that ride as, you know, the ride that my son and I rode forever. You know, we rode it like 8 times that first trip. But we also had fast passes, and that's just not the way it goes now. And I'm not willing to pay. So like, I had not experienced Seven Dwarves in the new Genie Plus era. I'd only experienced it in the fast pass time.
Right. So when you enter over from the left instead of the longer queue on the right-hand side.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I could pay for it, but I don't think it's worth that money.
No.
You know, it's not.
It's good, but
There are rides I will pay for. Seven Dwarves is not one of them.
well, it's like I said earlier, you could wait 120 minutes, or you can do A, B, C, and D and just get more enjoyment out of doing it. But some people I'm sure people listening would go, nope, love that ride, I would wait for it.
I will also say this, though. As much as we're sitting here kind of saying, this is why it moved down. I mean, it's still in our top 5. I mean, it's both of our number 4.
Yeah.
I'll also say that this last summer, when we went, it was posted as a 75-minute wait. We didn't wait 75 minutes.
Well, they put that time up so people will do A, B, C,
right.
and D.
It was extended hours. We were there. It said 75 minutes, and we waited 15, 20.
Great.
So sometimes you just have to ignore the wait time sign and just go, because the wait time sign is probably wrong.
I feel like it's a shorter ride too. I looked it up while you were talking just now, and it's a 3-minute ride.
Well, but they're measuring it differently than how you measured Wandering Oaken.
True, because I started it right when you went down the hill, and I realized that too. But I'm just saying, I'm not comparing it to the Frozen ride here. I'm comparing it to anything else I could be doing at the park, longer rides. And
Yeah, it's not terribly long. It's
Thunder
not the
Mountain's pretty long. I wonder how much longer.
Yeah, it's not the shortest. It's certainly not the shortest ride at Magic Kingdom, but it's not. You know, it's not long. Not in by any stretch of the imagination. But I love the ride. I love the animatronics. I really like the witch animatronic at the end. I mean, I think that is just so amazing.
It is. It's creepy. I love it.
The whole story time. You know, not story time. The story that it's telling is great. The queue is amazing. If you can get 7 people to spin the barrels all at the same time, so you get Snow White to appear on the roof. I don't know if you've ever gotten 7 people to do it with you. We were able to pull it off this last time. So
my wife doesn't love it when people are touching everything. She doesn't want our kids to get sick.
If you're touching those barrels, you just wipe it off use your Purell.
Yes, hand sanitizer.
Yeah, we're not saying lick the honey wall at poo, which I've seen, but
I think I have too.
So yeah, that's both of our number 4. So that means that I guess we're going back to you now for your number 3.
Yep. I'm going to guess that at some point this is going to be on your list too. But my number 3, and it's always been one of my favorites also, is Pirates. And it's just so much fun for so many reasons. You have a little bit of thrill because you got the drop. You have the great smells. You have the fantastic animatronics, the songs you can sing along to. It's like all my favorite elements together in one ride. You know, if it didn't have the drop, so if we were to compare it to another dark ride like we would say Haunted Mansion, it has that extra slight little thrill factor. And I would be remiss if I don't mention the West Coast version has a few more of those drops. But even just with the one single drop, Pirates just becomes such a great ride for everybody. Not only is it cool inside, but I'm guessing it's a little bit of a longer ride too. I like the queue. Half of the queue is indoors, so that is a good way to cool off.
Even the part that's outdoors is protected from the elements. You're not standing in the sun baking.
Yeah, it's not. It's great for so many reasons. I'm gonna guess this is on your list. Am I right?
You are right. My number 3 is Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
So
again, folks, we don't.
So I'm gonna.
These are all a surprise.
We're gonna take a slight diversion here and talk about why we needed to redo the 2024 version. Have you ever heard how people look like their pets? Now, just follow me down this road. Have you ever heard about that? How their pets and them can look alike. Have you ever seen these memes? And
people have told me that before, especially what
you don't look like Georgie. Come on.
Here, I'll do the face.
Yeah, his bulldog.
Yeah.
So, I think the reason people start to look like their pets, quote unquote, is they spend so much time together, right? And so clearly, over the years, the last 2 years, recording this podcast with you, we have developed some similarities.
I see where this is going, I think.
And so I'm not saying you're my pet.
No.
I'm just saying that I think I have been influenced by your love for the historic dark rides.
Yep.
And for me, that is what this was definitely on my list before. This was my number 4 last time. It's my number 3 this time. I love this ride for all the reasons you said.
Mm-hmm.
The smell, like you didn't say it, but I know that that's up there because you and I have been walking up in a city near us in Rochester by some fountains that had bromine in them, and you could smell it, and you're like, "Are we on Pirates?"
It smells like Pirates of the Caribbean.
So just this idea. To me, it's so immersive. It is. I think if you want my honest truth, I think it's the best storyline of any of the dark rides. I know that you disagree with that, but I think the storyline is great. I mean, the storyline of this ride kicked off a pretty epic universe of movies, right? I mean, I used epic universe. I didn't mean to
purposely.
I did not mean to do that. So I think it's just such a great ride all around. I can't agree more. The queue is great. The ride vehicle holds a lot of people, so the line is never really terribly long. I don't feel like it's not like where there's another one that I'm sure you're going to mention, but that it's like not a lot of stop and go stuff. The last few times I've been on Peter Pan, the last few times I've been on Haunted Mansion, last few times, those dark rides, it's like, stop, wait, we're going to unload somebody. And some of it's unloading somebody, and some of it is like just ridiculousness of like the ride vehicles issues. I don't feel like there's any of that with Pirates. I love it.
What would you guess if you were to guess how long the ride is itself? I was surprised. I just looked it up.
I'm going to go 6 minutes.
8 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was higher. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it was on the higher end.
The West
great.
Coast version, this is going to surprise you too.
9.5.
It's a little longer, and there's more scenes. There's a whole lot more of the skeletons at the beginning.
You got the going through the restaurant part.
15 minutes and 30 seconds.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's crazy.
It's from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think we're past the point where people need to question everything Wikipedia says.
Well, we work in a school, and at our school, everybody questions everything that's from Wikipedia.
I hate that. I tell my kids when I've got them. Now, granted, I'm a math teacher, but we do some writing and stuff in my statistics classes, and I'm like, they're just old and stodgy. That's why they're telling you not to use Wikipedia.
I've gone into Wikipedia before to change like some information about something related to one of my bands, because we have a page on there and something was inaccurate and I went to change it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even let me.
They wouldn't let you?
No, they wouldn't let me change it. Like they wrote an email back that I wasn't allowed to change. So anyway, I don't want to get off track too much. I guess my point is that it seems like maybe it's a little harder to go in and just, type in, fart or butt or
So
something.
you mean I can't change Patrick Mahomes' father to Josh Allen today when he gets sorry. All right. Anyway, we're going to move on
I
from
hope
Wikipedia.
we don't have any listeners from the Kansas
KC.
City area.
So honestly, I love this ride. I love it. I love your pick of it at 3, obviously, because I picked it there too. I do wish, however, that one day I will get to have experienced all the pirates. I want to do a Pirates World Tour.
Oh my gosh.
That would be. I mean,
The great one is what?
Shanghai. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, that
that's-
is ridiculous.
jeez.
I mean, yeah, I don't even understand. The Paris one, I can't wait to see that sword fight. We've talked about it with Ear Scouts Rob before, and I've watched plenty of videos. The behind the attractions on this particular one on Disney Plus
Is great.
If you haven't watched, I know we talk about this show all the time, but if you haven't watched it yet, you need to. It's so good. All of those episodes are good, but I felt like the Pirates one, because they talk about the evolution of pirates at every park, whereas some of them are just like postage stamp, like take it up, put it down, like a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Whereas the pirates, they want to evolve every single time. It's so cool.
Other episodes that are similar is the Haunted Mansion one, the Space Mountain one, because they're at different parks.
And
but
they're different
in
They're
each
different.
one.
Yeah.
That's why that's a really good show to
Yeah,
watch.
like Phantom Manor in Paris. Yeah. So that gives us our number 3, but we doubled up on 3 again. So let's see if we match up on 2.
My number 2, I know, is either your 1 or 2. But as soon as I say mine, it's going to give it away. If you're a regular listener, you can probably predict what my number 1 is because I talk about it all the time. But my number 2, just looked it up, is a 3-minute ride way in the back corner of Frontierland, and it is Big Thunder Mountain.
That is not my number 2.
That
So
is-
we don't match up on number 2.
That is my number 2. This ride is a lot of fun for many, many reasons. One fun story that I always like to share, it's this great memory from when we were on Thunder Mountain, was I was riding it with my daughter, and they always tell you to put away your hat and glasses and everything, right? Well, there was a gentleman at the front of the car as the car started going around the twists and turns, and he was sitting in the front, and we go down this drop, and the guy's hat flies off. So he's in the first cart, we're in the last cart. The hat flies off. My daughter reaches up, snags it right out of the air. And at the end of the ride, we get off the ride, and she goes, "Here you go, sir." At the time, she was probably 11 or something.
Yeah.
She was young, so impressive skills by her. So Big Thunder Mountain is great. It's so much fun, and I think even the narration at the beginning, having kind of like the I don't know if he's a cowboy necessarily, but just the way that the voice is and the narrator immediately starts it off as fun, because that ride could take a totally different feel if it starts off and, "Hey, buckaroos, welcome to the wildest ride in the wilderness." But it's not. It's like it's upbeat and exciting, and right away from the beginning, you're pumped to go. You
Absolutely.
do that big climb. There's actually 2 big climbs during the ride, and it's so much fun.
I think the queue's underrated too.
It is. It's a lot of fun, and
It gets hot. Oh my gosh,
It does.
that ramp. But I think the queue's underrated.
a lot of it is undercover. I mean, a lot of it is just kind of wood. It's not super boring because the way that they kind of curl you around and the twists and turns, it's not like a boring queue where it's like up, down, up. So like, I'll give you an example of one that I don't like. I think is boring is the Jungle Cruise queue. I think that one's really boring. But anyway, I love Big Thunder Mountain for so many reasons. That's my number 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great ride. I certainly can't argue with you that it's a good ride.
Great.
But it's not my number 2.
Okay. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is Tron.
See, that is not on my list because I have not experienced it yet.
I
will this summer, but I'm not there yet.
So have you ever watched, I know you have. I want listeners to think about a movie they've watched where somebody talked it up so much. And you watched it and you're like, what? That's not good. Right? That's been there. You've had that, right?
All the time.
This is kind of like almost the opposite for me. People were like, it's short. It's not really worth the wait. Blah, blah, blah. Like, just talked it down.
We waited so long for this ride, and now it's out, and who cares?
Yeah, and it's only 30 seconds long. And I loved it. It's a fantastic ride. It's got a great soundtrack. The queue could be a little bit more interesting, admittedly. It's not horrible. It's certainly not Jungle Cruise. It's not as cool as, like, I guess we've come to expect things like Cosmic Rewind.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's not that. It's got some cool pre-show type stuff, but nothing like Cosmic Rewind.
Did you get to ride it at night?
I did not ride it at night. I rode it in the evening, and I rode it twice in the morning. Now, here's what I will say. You're going to wait a lot longer if you ride it at night.
Mm-hmm.
I had boarding group 1 one day.
Wow.
And I had boarding group 7 another day. And then I had boarding group, it was a later one. That was the one where we tried to get it while we're in the airport, and we got too early of a one, and we weren't going to be able to get there in time. So we canceled it and then rebooked, and there was still a boarding group. And
Was that the one where the cast member helped you out?
The cast member had to help me out because I was going to get called back during my dinner. And they said, well, you can come back over here. And I was like, we just flew in today, and I am, like, I appreciate it, and I know that you're doing what you can. I thank you so much, but, like, it's just not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to, like, I'm not going to leave the park, go to dinner, and then come back here. It's just, but thanks. I appreciate it. She's like, never mind. You know what? Why don't you just go and you can go use it right now. So that was cool.
Cool.
It wasn't a lightning lane, but she changed our boarding group to an anytime boarding group.
Shout out to our fantastic cast members who are our listeners.
Yeah. So it's a fun ride. The launch is super cool. Now, I did ride once in the back seat. So that little bench seat thing, I don't know what you want to call it, the regular car. Mm-hmm. So you're not on the bike. I rode that with my daughter. And then I rode the bikes twice with my son. And what I would say is this. The bikes are more fun, but not so much less fun that not so much more fun that you should feel left out if you have to ride in the, I don't want to call it the handicap car, but it's like the, I don't know.
Call it the accessibility vehicle. How about that?
I don't even know what it's called. I can't remember, but
it's basically the vehicle that doesn't lean you forward and lock in your legs the same way.
Right. So it can be painful. Like, I have decently sized calves that, like, it's a little bit hard to get my leg adjusted to get in there. It is not ridiculously difficult, but certain body shapes don't fit well on that ride. You shouldn't feel like totally left out. The experience is great either way. Like I said, the soundtrack's amazing. When you launch out of that building and you're outside, now I'd love to do it at night, but I don't really feel like waiting the extra time. Now, even though it's a virtual queue, everybody delayed. When you get to the end of the night, the early queue. So let's say you have a boarding group that's return time is between 6 and 7. Well, everybody who has a boarding group that gets called between 6 and 7 is going
at 7.
It's going at 7.
Yeah.
And then everybody who gets called at 6:30 is going at 7:30. They're trying to delay it as long as they can.
So you can see all the lights glowing in the dark. Yeah.
Exactly. And the way they do check-in is at the end of the, when I was there, because it was freshly new, they were scanning you in to get into the queue, and it was far enough away from where the queue beginning was that, like, where normally a cast member stands with a sign like, this is the end.
Yes.
So, like,
you can check in.
So you can show up right at that last second right there and not have to worry about getting turned away.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you can go through and then just kind of waste time until you want to go on the ride.
I'm sure people do it.
Okay.
I'm sure that people do it, because inside that would be very easy to be like, oh, I'm waiting for somebody.
Yeah.
And, like, just keep on ushering people through.
I just got to use the bathroom quick.
It's just it really is a special ride. It's worth the wait. I was prepared for it to be bad. And even then, when certain people were like, it's not as bad as people say it is, it's good, it is really short. And people were really high on it. I still was like, yeah, this is not going to be great. We're going to ride it once, call it an experience, and be done. And then I rode it, and I was like, oh, wow. I mean, it's my number 2 for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, number 2 for me is Tron. I cannot wait to get your reaction when you rode it. I know that your daughter rode it.
Yep. She got to go this summer. She went with a friend.
Yeah, I can't wait to get your take on it, because I think that you're going to be like, wow, that was fun. That was a really good time.
Did you listen to, we talk about this all the time, the Disney Dish? Did you listen to the episode when they brought in the Imagineer named Jim Shule? And he talks about how, kind of one of the first times they decided to incorporate music along with a thrill attraction. Have you heard that episode yet?
I have, but it's been
It's a couple weeks.
Yeah,
It's a couple weeks old,
about
but
a month, right?
that's what it made me think of, because personally, I think that Tron soundtrack it's Tron 2 technically. The Tron 2 soundtrack is probably, in my opinion, and I'm pretty snooty about this stuff, the best soundtrack made for a movie in years.
Yeah.
It's so the guys from Daft Punk did the music. It's incredible. Like, you can listen to that album just as an album and be like, that is amazing.
Yeah, the music's amazing. It's not. I mean, you're not going to listen to it and be like, "Oh, I love that song to jam out to." It's
Atmospheric
an epic
masterpiece.
It's
like listening to some of the best ones are Star Wars, Indiana Jones. I mean, they're all kind of John Williams,
but you think about
Jurassic
that.
Park.
Daft Punk, that particular soundtrack is the electronic version of an orchestral masterpiece.
God, it's so good.
Yeah, that's my number 2, Tron.
I'll end with this. They just posted this week. They are filming Tron 3.
I saw it.
Yeah. So I'm curious who's in it. Tron 2 was okay. Like, did you see it at all?
I did.
You probably don't even remember it, do you?
It's forgettable.
Yeah, it wasn't super memorable, but I also remember it not being bad.
No, it wasn't horrible.
But I think the first one was the same way.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it in the 80s. I didn't see that one in the theater. I remember right when VHS first started coming out, that was one of the movies that I rented. I remember seeing it, thinking it was going to be more like Star Wars, and it really wasn't. I don't think they developed the characters as well, but the graphics and all the special effects were pretty impressive.
I agree.
My number 1 is no surprise to anyone that is a regular listener. So I'm going to take this minute to just say thank you to our regular listeners who are laughing and rolling their eyes and knowing exactly what I'm about to say. So again, thank you to our regular listeners. And if you know what I'm about to say, it means you listen on a regular basis, and we really appreciate it. So my number 1 is the Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion has been my favorite ride for the entire time that I've gone to the Disney park since the late 70s, early 80s. Everything about it. I love horror movies. I like kind of all things Halloween, heavy metal, like things that are all part of that kind of, I'm not a scary, spooky person, but those things are very exciting and fun to me. And I think the way that they do this Haunted Mansion ride really puts you inside of a spooky horror movie, and not like a slasher thing, because I watch those too.
No.
But it's just puts you in this spooky haunted house. And one of the things I rarely ever mention that I think is one of the best parts of the whole thing, and I'm only thinking of this because we just talked about this with Tron, is the voiceover and the music that go along with this attraction.
Thurl Ravenscroft is like,
oh my gosh, he's the Grinch. He sings Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, the guy's incredible. I mean, anyway, it's definitely one of my favorite rides ever, and they just changed it. So they added the Hatbox Ghost, which I've seen on the West Coast, and it was pretty awesome in person. And I'm very excited and looking forward to seeing it. You were there right before they unveiled the Hatbox Ghost, right?
I wasn't there right before they did it, but they were prepping the area. So
they had a curtain up.
Yeah, I think they were doing probably some electrical work. I'm not positive on that, but like,
I think I texted you. Yeah. You were like, I'm going to go on Haunted Mansion. I said, hey, take a picture of the hallway, like where the candelabra is. You're like, okay. And I remember you texting me. You're like, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? And you're like, yeah, there was nothing.
Yeah, there was a curtain up or whatever earlier in the day, and by the time I was there, it was gone. So I get why you love this ride. It's certainly it's not on my list. It's an honorable mention, probably number 6, honestly.
But I also know it's not for everybody, and I'm not going to argue back and tell you you're nuts. Like, it better be on everybody's list.
I'm going to go on it every damn time. Trust me. Yeah. But I don't know that I would. For me, it's not my top 5. But it's a great ride, and I think that I love it more now. Very similar to like what I talked about with Pirates, like where I've grown to appreciate it because of conversations with you. Mm-hmm. I've grown to appreciate it a little bit more. It's a great ride, and I get what you're saying, that you're in a spooky haunted house, almost like those those cheesy old school horror flicks that like you watch and you start laughing at.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's going on.
And that's okay.
And that's the whole point. And then when you get to the graveyard where it actually is supposed to be kind of funny,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you got the jump scares from the, you know, the heads popping up from behind the gravestones. And I don't know, I think it's cool. But,
And if you watch, I'll bring this up again, the behind the attraction, the two different Imagineers that came together to create the attraction, one of them was very much into the dark and macabre, and the other was kind of a jokester and Rolly Crump and wanted things to be a little bit more funny. And so I can't remember if it was Mark Davis or Rolly Crump. It was one of them, maybe both. Worked on that ride, but
Rolly Crump did because he just passed away recently.
I thought so.
And they did. I don't know if they have it in Disney World, but in Disneyland there is a nod to him with a candle.
Oh,
That is like that. It's like this wax figurine guy.
oh,
So-
right, in the attic.
Yeah.
I did see that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool.
So it's definitely that's. You know, that's the other thing is like they have a lot of hidden stuff in there if you kind of pay attention. I will say. The reason that it wouldn't make my list, if I had only ridden, it wouldn't even be honorable mention if I had only ridden it the last 2 times.
Is it the stop and go?
It's gotten bad, man.
Yeah, I
It's
knew
gotten-
you were going to say that.
It's gotten so bad.
That's fine.
And somebody
I get it.
commented on it on a reel the other day about it. It's gotten bad. Like I'm not the only one. It makes the ride not enjoyable. It's like
Well,
imagine watching a movie, right? You sit down to watch a movie.
Yeah.
And your kid says, "Can you hold on? I got to go to the bathroom." Pause it. Okay? Comes back, sits down. Then your other kid, "Daddy, I want some popcorn." So you pause it and you go get the popcorn. And then 5 minutes later, "Daddy, I have to go to the bathroom." The other one. Like that's what riding this ride is like in 2024.
I get it, and that's a great argument. I actually have the opposite take. Now here's my opposite take on that. If you're somebody, now you have to qualify for this before you go on to the rest of it. If you're somebody like me who every time will ride it multiple times and has ridden it your whole life, right? You have the whole ride memorized. I can say the whole script as it's going, and sometimes I do, and just to drive my daughter nuts because she'll ride it with me. And I look at it as when we stop, I'm excited that I get to spend that much more time in that area. And what I do is I study the room and I look around and I try to see all the little things that I haven't seen before because I love it so much. And I realize that's coming from a different place, but I'm excited that I get to spend that much more time in the ride. Look, I realize that's probably 10% of the people listening are going to go, yeah, that's cool. I want to study the inside of it too. I realize I'm in the minority, but I love it for that reason. Another one of my favorites, and we talk about this a lot in our family when we're riding the ride, is we've been stopped multiple times going backwards when we are up in the attic and it turns and you go down. Like that's kind of fun to be laying down in the back of the Doom buggy too. It's kind of cool and relaxing. That's a little worse, but then just kind of pausing in Madame Leota's room and hearing her whole narration, because you only get to hear a portion of Madame Leota because she talks about, you know,
Not me.
you get to hear the
I heard
tambourine.
I heard the whole thing 5 times.
That's
the whole thing.
That's a bit much, though.
The whole thing 5 times.
That's
I
a little
counted.
longer than the normal stops that I'll have. 'Cause
Correct.
Our stops will be maybe a minute, maybe a minute and a half,
Like-
which is cool. And
I don't know that they need to. I don't know if they need to retrain the cast members to be more expeditious with
unload.
load and unload those that need assistance, or if it's a systems with the ride thing. I will tell you that the last time I was there was the worst, and it was not enjoyable. That said, I still put it in my honorable mention, even with that, because it's that good of a ride.
yeah,
So I don't know. I appreciate why you love it. I also appreciate why you love your number 2, which is why it's my number one.
I
You
figured.
called it, yeah. This was my number 1 before.
Yep.
It is my number 1 now. It is my favorite ride at Magic Kingdom. It might be my second favorite ride in all of Disney World. I'd have to really go and think hard about that. Maybe it's certainly my top 5. My son, my daughter, we all love it. My wife loves it. You know, you told a story about your daughter and the hat coming off, which, by the way, when he told that story on our episode 1, we hadn't quite learned about the full benefits of Instagram at that time, and we knew what it was and we used it, but it wasn't like we weren't doing much. You got to send me that video, and I'll try to do because it's just like you see the hat whipping,
Sure.
and I'll see if I can make a reel with that. But what I will tell you is this: it's funny. Your daughter's favorite ride at Magic Kingdom is Big
Thunder Mountain.
and my daughter's favorite ride at Magic Kingdom is Small World. But number 2 is Big Thunder Mountain.
Yeah.
So our kids love this ride because it is just the most exciting but accessible roller coaster. We had a really good conversation with our friend Rob, Ear Scouts Rob, and he talked about how the version in Paris is too smooth. And I got thinking about it, and I'm like, maybe that's why I like it. I grew up going to Great Escape, and they have some really cool roller coasters, but they're wooden. And wooden roller coasters are rickety and kind of shake you a little bit more. And that's what I like about this one. It kind of feels like you're on an old wooden roller coaster. The clickety-clack, all those things are amazing. Now, we went on Splash Mountain. We're able to watch the fireworks, right? You remember when we did that? That was amazing, right?
Never going to forget that.
This one, though, is currently like the next best thing for the fireworks view. If you're going to you can time your ride with this to see fireworks as well. It's not the same.
Mine Train, you can too.
Yeah, Mine Train, that's true. I feel like that one's harder because you have to look straight up, whereas with this, you can kind of look off. But that's besides the point. My point is that what also excites me about this is when they're talking about Beyond Big Thunder. Beyond Big Thunder. Notice what they're not saying is Villains Land, Cars Land. They're not saying what it is. They're always referencing that it's Beyond Big Thunder, which tells me Big Thunder's there. It's not going.
Good.
They're not going to touch it. I love this ride. My kids love this ride. It's a ride I will always do. I will never miss this ride. You've talked about it already. There's not really much more to expound upon other than the fact that, I think it's a great ride. I think the queue, like I said, is great. There's some interactivity of it that people don't realize. The whole like charging up the dynamite sticks. I don't know if you've ever even done that, but you can charge them up and then like push the thing down. And, the dynamite blows and whatnot. It's great. There's also a really cool photo pass spot. It's not always a photo pass photographer there, but you can still take your own picture there. As you're exiting the ride, there's like a little spot to kind of stand and
Off to the left of the entrance. When you're leaving, it's to the right.
No, it's on the left of the path. It's to the right of the entrance, I believe.
Oh, way over there.
Yeah, when
kind
you
of
come
by
out,
Tom
when you come
Sawyer.
out. Yeah, so yeah, you're like
okay,
you're
I
way
didn't know
over on the
that.
side. There's like a cool little alcove almost as soon as you exit. You walk down a little bit.
Oh, right. You do end up you exit on the left.
Yeah,
that's right.
You end up a little bit off, and then on
Sure.
the left hand side, there's like this little alcove you can go into, and there's sometimes a photo pass photographer there taking amazing pictures with Big
The
Thunder.
train in the background.
Or with Big Thunder. If you're lucky, you get the train in the background too.
That's cool.
It's really a great spot. So I love this ride. I think it's one of those ones too where come in the park, if you just want to ride Big Thunder, you hop on the railroad on Main Street and you ride it over to get off at the station by Splash, jump over to Big Thunder. I love the ride. It's great.
It is.
I have
agree.
some of my best memories are on that ride. So yeah, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical when Rob said, let's do this list again. I was like, oh, we already did that list. But it's changed.
It is.
We've changed.
Yep. And that's why probably wouldn't want to do it 50 times a year, but once a year, sure.
Yeah.
Changes.
And it definitely changes enough after 2 years. I mean, I've been multiple times. You've gotten the perspective of Pirates on another coast and Haunted Mansion on another coast.
It changed my opinion of Space Mountain.
Oh, yeah. Space Mountain on another coast. So, I mean, the other thing is we've lost Splash. And so I suspect that in 2 years, when we've experienced, hopefully in 2 years we have.
That might be on my top 5.
Who knows? Maybe that comes back.
I'm really looking forward to
I am too.
Tiana.
I am too. So you have any honorable mentions you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, just because ones are kind of important to my family. I'm not saying they're the greatest rides in the world, but Small World is my wife's favorite, and we always have a blast on it, and she just comes off the ride beaming.
My daughters as well.
Yeah, and another one is we have some special memories from the Little Mermaid ride where, we name a couple of the characters. We named one after my dad, and like I will sing during part of it, and it's just certain funny traditions that we do during that ride.
Yeah.
Nothing, I mean, it's stories, but it's not really a huge deal.
Yeah.
But just kind of a special ride for us personally. And on the West Coast for Mermaid is exactly the same.
Yeah.
So
I would-
just
I
thought
would-
I'd mention that. There's no difference.
I would toss in Haunted Mansion. I already said was honorable mention.
Good.
I would say Space Ranger Spin is up there for me.
Yeah.
I know, I get it.
Other members of my family love it.
Yeah. And then I think those two are really the big hitters for me. I love Mermaid. I don't know if I put an honorable mention, but I mean it's close. And as much as I crap on the whole spinners, I don't think you get much more nostalgic than riding Dumbo. I think that's kind of just a fun ride. I love riding that ride with either of my children, just because it's like, stop growing up, would you? Like, hit pause, please. So I think that's a fun one too.
I'm a little anti Winnie the Pooh ride only because it took the place of one of my favorites, which was Mr. Toad. But
it did to Mr. Toad what the train could not.
Yeah.
It really killed him.
That's a good point. But again, I don't want to fall into the category of one of those people like, I can't believe they're redoing Splash Mountain, or I can't believe they're redoing whatever. Yeah, they redid it. I understand. But the great part about it is it's a new ride, but I can go and ride it out on the West Coast if I want to. It's still there.
Yeah.
Same thing when they got rid of Snow White's Scary Adventures. I can go ride it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it stinks, but hey, I can still do it.
Absolutely. So thank you for following along and listening. If you haven't followed us on Instagram, go check us out at DizlessPod. You can check us out also pretty much on any platform.
Yeah, and we're DizlessPod on there too.
Yeah, and you can also go over to patreon.com/DizlessPod. Check us out over there. You'll be able to check out some of our stuff that we'll be doing over there and follow along. We really appreciate it because that's where you can show some support. We have some great supporters over there. And they get access to episodes early, and they also get access to unique and exclusive mini episodes. And the last thing I would say is go check us out over at Magic Merch. So Magic Merch 70 at Magic Merch 77 on Instagram. magicmerch.art for our storefront. Check out, we have some like subtle Disney, some of them are subtle, some of them are not so subtle, Disney references that we've posted, and that store is currently all on sale.
Did we put up the new one yet? You had a great idea for one. We collaborated on a design.
Yeah, the Chinese New Year one. It is not on Etsy yet. It will be up either later today or tomorrow. I just have to.
Well, tell everybody about it. I think it's one of our best ones.
Yeah, so it's a hand drew a dragon, but it's actually Maleficent in dragon form.
Yeah.
And so it's the colors of Maleficent. So it's got that black, green, purple thing going on.
I had to add wings, and then I gave her more of a pointier, kind of like a beak almost.
Yeah, and then it says Year of the Dragon, because this is the Year of the Dragon for Chinese New Year. So we thought that'd be a fun one to also have in there.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fun. Like, we collabed on it. I did the drawing, and Nick went in, found an awesome font to use, and placed all the text over top. It was cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing this stuff. So at the very least, it's a fun creative outlet for us. But go check those designs out, see if you like anything, and drop us a line if you want us to design something specific for you. But it's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow is just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.